Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Aurora's dawn, watching the stars stretch into lines as they dropped out of hyperspace. 3 years into humanity's first deep space exploration mission, and they still hadn't found any signs of intelligent life. Earth scientists were beginning to wonder if humans were alone in the galaxy. "Captain, I'm picking up some strange readings," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from the tactical station. Her fingers danced across the controls, frowning at the data, streaming across her screens. Multiple energy signatures about 2 million kilometers off our port side. Morrison walked over to look at her display. The readings showed massive energy outputs, the kind that could only come from spacecraft. Big ones. "How many ships are we talking about?" "At least 50, sir. Maybe more. They're fighting each other." The bridge fell silent. Chief, Engineer Ben Parker looked up from his station, his weathered face showing surprise. "Fighting? You mean like a battle?" "It looks that way," Rodriguez confirmed. "Two distinct groups using different weapon signatures. They've been at it for hours, judging by the debris field I'm detecting." Morrison felt his heart race. First, contact with alien life, and they were witnessing a war. "Can we get closer without being detected?" Parker checked his instruments. "Our stealth systems should keep us hidden. Human technology runs on different principles than what I'm seeing out there. Their sensors probably can't even see us." "Take us in slowly," Morrison ordered. "Yellow alert. I want everyone ready, but let's not do anything aggressive. We're here to observe." The Aurora's dawn crept closer to the battle. Through the main viewer, they could see the alien ships clearly now. One group flew massive vessels that looked like floating cities, covered in heavy armor and bristling with weapons. The other side used smaller, faster ships that moved in coordinated swarms. "Look at how they fight," Rodriguez said, studying the tactical display. "The big ships always form the same battle lines. The small ships always attack from the same angles. It's like they're following a script." Morrison nodded. The battle had a strange rhythm to it, almost like a dance. The large ships would fire. Their main guns, the small ships would scatter, regroup, then attack the same weak points they had targeted dozens of times before. Neither side seemed to be trying anything new. "Captain," called Communications Officer Lisa Brooks, "I'm intercepting their transmissions. The universal translator is working overtime, but I'm getting some of it. The big ships belong to something called the Zephyrian Empire. The small ships are from the Korthak Federation." "What are they saying?" Brooks listened for a moment, her face growing pale. "Sir, they're talking about this battle like it's just another day at work. They're discussing shift changes, supply deliveries, casualty reports. This isn't a major engagement for them." "This is routine." Parker whistled low. "How long have they been fighting?" "I'm picking up references to battle records going back thousands of years, sir. Literally thousands. This war has been going on longer than human civilization." Morrison stared at the battle raging before them. Ships exploded. Crews died. But both sides just kept sending more vessels to replace them. It was like watching two machines grinding against each other, neither able to break the other, neither willing to stop. They're stuck, he realized. Both sides are so locked into their way of fighting that they can't change. The big ships can't break the swarm tactics, and the swarm can't penetrate that heavy armor. They're trapped in an endless loop. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. Rodriguez's voice was urgent. "Captain, 3 Zephyrian ships are breaking off. From the main battle, they're heading straight for us." "I thought we were invisible to their sensors," Morrison said. Parker was already running diagnostics. "We should be. But maybe our movement pattern caught their attention. We've been flying in a straight line, watching the battle. Their ships always move in curves and formations. A straight line might look suspicious." The 3 alien ships were massive up close, each one easily 10 times the size of the Aurora's dawn. Their hull plating was scarred by countless battles, and their weapon ports glowed with deadly energy. "They're trying to communicate with us," Brooks reported. "The translation is rough, but they want to know which side we're on." Morrison made a quick decision. "Tell them we're neutral explorers from a distant world." "We mean no harm." The response came back quickly. Brooks looked confused as she translated. Sir, they say that neutrality is impossible. Everything in the galaxy must choose a side. They're giving us 1 minute to decide, Zephyrian Empire or Korthak Federation. And if we don't choose, they'll destroy us as a potential threat to both sides. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was ready for anything, but they were explorers, not warriors. The Aurora's Dawn had some defensive systems, but nothing that could stand up to 3 warships that had been built for endless conflict. Sir, Rodriguez said quietly, I have an idea. These aliens fight in patterns, right? They expect certain responses. What if we do something completely unexpected? What do you have in mind? Random movement. Not tactical maneuvers, just pure randomness. Up, down, sideways, spinning if we have to. Make it impossible for them to predict where we'll be next. Parker grinned. I can make this ship dance like a drunken butterfly if you want, Captain. Morrison nodded. Do it. All power to engines and shields. Make us the most unpredictable target they've ever seen. The Aurora's Dawn suddenly jerked upward, then spiraled left, then dropped down while spinning. Parker was flying the ship like it was completely out of control, but every movement was carefully calculated to avoid the alien weapons. The Zephyrian ships kept firing, but their targeting systems couldn't keep up. They were used to enemies that moved in formation that followed tactical patterns. The human ship's chaotic flight path confused their computers and frustrated their gunners. It's working, Rodriguez shouted. They can't hit us. But Morrison noticed something else. The entire battle had stopped. Both sides were watching the small human ship dance between the massive Zephyrian vessels. No one had ever seen anything like it before. Captain, Brooks said, her voice filled with wonder, I'm getting transmissions from both fleets. They want to know what kind of ship we are, what kind of people could fly like this. I think we've amazed them. Morrison saw his chance. Tell them we come in peace, that we're explorers seeking knowledge, and tell them we've never seen a war like theirs before. The Zephyrian ships stopped firing and pulled back. On the communications channel, voices from both sides were asking questions in dozens of different languages. For the first time in centuries, the eternal enemies were curious about the same thing. As the Aurora's Dawn limped away from the battle zone, Morrison realized that humanity had just changed something fundamental in this ancient war. They had introduced a new variable into an equation that had been the same for thousands of years. Behind them, the battle resumed. But something was different now. Both sides were thinking about the strange little ship that had danced between their weapons like it was playing a game, instead of fighting for survival. The endless war continued, but for the first time in millennia, it had been interrupted by something completely unexpected: curiosity. 3 months after the encounter with the alien fleets, Captain Rick Turner guided the UES Defiance through the asteroid field surrounding Nexus 7. The space station hung in the darkness like a metal flower, its arms reaching out to dock ships from across the galaxy. First time seeing a neutral zone, said Commander Tony Walsh, studying the various alien ships docked at the station. Look at that mix. Zephyrian heavy cruisers next to Korthak scout ships, and they're not shooting at each other. Dr. Helen Brooks pressed her face to the viewport, fascinated by the alien designs. The station must have some kind of protection. Sacred ground, maybe? Turner nodded. According to the intelligence reports from Captain Morrison's mission, Nexus 7 is the only place in the galaxy where both sides agree to stop fighting. It's where refugees go when they can't take the war anymore. The docking process was smooth, though tense. Alien dock workers guided the Defiance into position with professional efficiency, but Turner could see weapons scanning his ship from hidden emplacements. Peace here was maintained by the threat of overwhelming force against anyone who broke it. The station's interior was a maze of corridors and chambers built for dozens of different species. The air was thick with various atmospheric mixes, and the artificial gravity shifted slightly in different sections to accommodate alien physiology. Commander Walsh led the security team through crowds of beings, unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Some walked on multiple legs, others floated in mechanical suits. All of them looked tired, worn down by centuries of war. "This way," said their guide, a tall figure in flowing robes whose face was hidden behind a breathing mask. "The Council of Refugees will see you in the neutral chamber," Dr. Brooks whispered to Turner as they walked. "Look at their body language. These aren't soldiers anymore. They're survivors." The neutral chamber was a vast space with seating designed for every known species. At the center sat two figures who commanded immediate attention despite their humble surroundings. The first was clearly Zephyrian, tall and broad with skin that looked like polished metal. His once impressive military uniform was patched and faded, but his bearing remained proud. "I am Vexhai, formerly war commander of the 3rd Zephyrian battle fleet. Now I speak for those who have abandoned the fight." The second figure was smaller, more insect-like, with multiple arms that moved in precise patterns as he spoke. "I am Trelnok of the Korthak Federation, former fleet master, current keeper of the peace on this station." Turner stepped forward, feeling the weight of representing his entire species. "I'm Captain Rick Turner of the United Earthship Defiance. We come seeking understanding of the war that spans your galaxy." Vexhai made a sound that might have been laughter, but held no humor. "Understanding? Young human, this war began before. Your species learned to make fire. We have fought so long that most have forgotten why we started. The records speak of territorial disputes," Trelnok added, his mandibles clicking as he talked. "Borders, resources, pride. But those reasons died with the generations who began this conflict. Now we fight because fighting is all we know." "Doctor," Brooks activated her recording device. "How many worlds have been affected?" "Thousands," Vexhai said simply. "Entire species have been wiped out, caught between our forces. Beautiful worlds turned to ash. The galaxy bleeds because two empires cannot find a way to stop." Commander Walsh leaned forward. "But surely someone has tried to end it. Negotiations? Treaties?" Trelnok's arms moved in what humans would later learn was a gesture of frustration. "Many have tried. The problem is not desire for peace, human Walsh. The problem is that we no longer remember how to live without war." "Show them," Vexhai said quietly. Trelnok activated a holographic display that filled the chamber. It showed a cross-section of a typical Zephyrian world. Every structure, every city, every aspect of life was built around supporting the war effort. Factories produced weapons, schools trained soldiers, even art and music celebrated battle. "This is how we live," Vexhai explained. "Our entire civilization serves the war machine. Remove the war, and our society collapses. We would not know what to do with ourselves." The display switched to a Korthak world, showing a similar pattern. Every citizen was part of the military structure, every resource dedicated to the conflict. Their culture, their identity, their very sense of purpose was tied to fighting the Zephyrians. Dr. Brooks studied the images with growing understanding. "You've evolved into creatures of war. Your entire species have been shaped by millennia of conflict." "Precisely," Trelnok said. "We are trapped by our own nature. The war must continue because without it, we are nothing." Turner felt a chill as he realized the scope of the problem. This wasn't just a political conflict or a territorial dispute. Two entire civilizations had become addicted to war itself. "But you're here," he pointed out. "You've chosen to leave the fighting." Vexhai's expression darkened. "We are the broken ones, Captain Turner. Those who could no longer bear the weight of endless death. Our own people consider us traitors or madmen." "How many refugees are there?" Walsh asked. "On this station, perhaps 50,000 from both sides," Trelnok replied. "In the entire galaxy, maybe 10 million, out of populations numbering in the trillions." The numbers were staggering. Dr. Brooks made rapid calculations in her head. Less than 1% of either population had ever chosen to abandon the war. The rest continued fighting because it was literally all they knew how to do. "There have been other species who tried to intervene," Vexhai continued. "Peacemakers, mediators, conquerors who thought they could impose order. All failed. The war consumed them or drove them away." Turner was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the station. The peaceful atmosphere shattered as beings ran in panic through the corridors. Trellnock's multiple eyes widened in fear. Impossible. They would never violate the sanctuary. Who? Turner demanded. Both of them, HFY said grimly, checking readings on his personal communicator. Zephyrian and Korthak fleets are approaching the station, large ones. The holographic display shifted to show space around Nexus 7. Two massive fleets were converging on the station from opposite directions, weapons powered and shields raised. Why would they attack a neutral zone? Dr. Brooks asked. Trellnock's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. They have learned about you, about humans. Word has spread that a new species has appeared, one that fights unlike anyone before. They cannot allow you to remain neutral. Walsh was already coordinating with his team. Captain, we need to get back to the ship. But Turner was thinking beyond immediate escape. How long do we have? Perhaps 1 hour before they arrive, HFY estimated. But Captain, you do not understand. They will destroy this station rather than let the other side claim it. 50,000 refugees will die to prevent the enemy from gaining any advantage. And your ship cannot stand against both fleets, Trellnock added. No single vessel could. You must flee now while you still can. Turner looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who had lived through millennia of pointless war. They had found one small corner of peace in a galaxy consumed by violence, and now that too was about to be destroyed. No, he said finally. We're not running. Captain, Walsh questioned. Turner smiled grimly. Commander, remember what Captain Morrison reported about predictable alien tactics? I think it's time to show them what unpredictable really looks like. Dr. Brooks stared at him. Rick, we're one ship against hundreds. Exactly. They'll never expect us to stay and fight. Hell, they probably don't expect us to be able to fight. At all. HFY leaned forward. What are you planning, human? Something that's never been tried before in your 3,000-year war, Turner replied. We're going to save everyone by doing something so crazy that both fleets will have to stop and think. Trellnock's arms moved in confusion. What could possibly make them hesitate? Turner was already heading for the door. We're going to get between them and refuse to pick a side. Sometimes the best way to stop a fight is to make both bullies focus on the kid who won't back down. As the human crew raced back to their ship, the refugees of Nexus 7 watched in amazement. For the first time in their lives, someone was going to stand up to both empires at once. The endless war was about to meet something it had never encountered before. Stubborn human courage backed by tactical insanity. The UES Defiance hung in space between two massive alien fleets, dwarfed by ships that could have carried entire cities. Captain Turner stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display as hundreds of vessels moved into battle formation on both sides of Nexus 7. They're really going to do it, Commander Walsh said quietly. They're going to destroy the station with all those refugees aboard. Not if we can help it, Turner replied. Amy, signal both fleets. Tell them we claim protection rights over Nexus 7 under human law. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked confused. Sir, human law doesn't apply out here. They don't know that. Buy us some time. Dr. Brooks was studying the alien formations through her instruments. Rick, I'm seeing the same patterns Captain Morrison reported. The Zephyrians are forming their standard battle lines. Heavy ships? In front. The Korthaks are splitting into attack swarms. They're going to fight each other right through the station. Sir, called Chief Parker from engineering, I've got an idea. Remember how we confused those Zephyrian ships by flying randomly? What if we take it further? I'm listening. Protocol chaos. We don't just fly unpredictably, we do everything unpredictably. Attack patterns, communication, even our energy signatures make ourselves impossible to understand or counter. Commander Walsh grinned. I like it. Both sides are used to enemies they can figure out. What happens when they face something completely illogical? The communications officer looked up from her station. Captain, both fleets are demanding we identify ourselves and choose a side. They're giving us 5 minutes. Turner made his decision. Signal both fleets. Tell them we choose neither side and both sides. Tell them we're here to protect the refugees, and any ship that fires on the station will be considered hostile to humanity. Sir, that makes no sense, Rodriguez protested. Exactly. Ben, initiate protocol chaos. Make this ship do things that will drive their tactical computers insane. The Defiance suddenly began a series of maneuvers that defied all military logic. It spun while moving forward, fired its engines in random directions and broadcast signals on every frequency at once. To the alien fleets, it looked like the human ship had either malfunctioned completely or was operated by madmen. It's working, Dr. Brooks reported. Both fleets have stopped advancing. They're trying to figure out what we're doing. But Turner knew the confusion wouldn't last long. Tony, launch the fighters. Tell Colonel Hughes to implement random attack patterns. I want them to look like they're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. 20 human fighters launched from the Defiance, each one following a completely different flight plan. Some flew straight at the alien ships, others seemed to run away, a few just spun in circles. But each pilot was carefully trained in what they were actually doing, using the chaos to mask precise attacks on specific targets. Colonel Hughes led his squadron through the asteroid field around Nexus 7, using the rocks as cover while his fighters darted between the massive alien vessels. The Zephyrian and Korthak ships couldn't lock onto targets that seemed to have no pattern or purpose. Hughes to Turner, came the colonel's voice over the radio. These aliens have never seen anything like this. Their gunners don't know where to aim. Their commanders don't know how to respond to random attacks. On the Defiance, Dr. Brooks made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I've been analyzing their response patterns. The aliens aren't just confused by our tactics. They're fascinated by them. What do you mean? Look at their formations. Instead of attacking us or the station, they're studying us. Both fleets are trying to understand how we think, how we fight. We've introduced something completely new into their 3,000-year war. Turner saw the opportunity. Open a channel to both fleet commanders. Put me through. The main screen split to show two alien faces. On the left was a Zephyrian admiral, his metallic features showing confusion and anger. On the right was a Korthak fleet master, her insectoid eyes reflecting the lights of her bridge. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet, the metallic being said. Your tactics are unknown to us. What manner of warfare is this? Fleetmaster Zergoth of the Korthak Seventh Swarm, the insectoid added. Your movements make no tactical sense. Are you trying to surrender or attack? Turner smiled. Neither. We're trying to save lives. Admiral, Fleetmaster, you've been fighting the same war for 3,000 years. Haven't you ever wondered if there might be a different way? Different way? Kethvar's voice was puzzled. War is war. There are proven methods, established tactics. Your chaos achieves nothing. Does it? Turner gestured to his tactical display. In the last hour, how many ships have you lost? How many of your people have died? Zergoth's mandibles clicked as she realized the truth. None. The battle has not begun because of your interference. Exactly. For the first time in centuries, both of your fleets are in the same space without killing each other. You're too busy trying to figure out what we're doing to remember that you're supposed to be enemies. Dr. Brooks stepped forward. May I show you something, commanders? With Turner's nod, she activated the holographic projector. The display showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with red zones marking areas of constant warfare between the two empires. This is your war, she explained. Every red area represents worlds where your people are fighting and dying. Trillions of beings, thousands of species, entire solar systems turned into battlefields. The map shifted, showing the war's progression. Over time, the red zones grew larger each century, consuming more and more of the galaxy. You see patterns, strategies, victories, and defeats, Brooks continued. But from the outside, looking at the big picture, all we see is waste. Waste of life, waste of resources, waste of potential. Admiral Kethvar leaned forward. You dare judge our sacred conflict? Not judge, Turner interjected. Question. We're asking the same question your refugees ask. What if there was another way? On the screen, Fleet Master Zergoth was quiet for a long moment. The human speaks of refugees. What do you know of our outcasts? We know they've found peace on Nexus 7, Turner replied. We know they represent millions of beings from both sides who chose life over endless war. Traitors and cowards, Kethvar spat. Survivors and thinkers, Turner countered. The bravest people in your galaxy, because they had the courage to walk away from a fight that serves no purpose. Commander Walsh monitored the tactical situation as the two fleet commanders argued with the humans. Captain, something's happening. Ships from both fleets are moving out of formation. Not attacking positions, Dr. Brooks observed. They're getting closer to watch our fighters. Some of their pilots are trying to copy our maneuvers. Colonel Hughes's voice crackled over the radio. Turner, I've got alien fighters shadowing my squadron. They're not attacking, just following along, like they're trying to learn our patterns. Turner realized they had achieved something unprecedented. The ancient enemies were working together, united in their curiosity about human tactics. Commanders, he said to the alien leaders, your people are already cooperating. Look at your screens. Zephyrian and Korthak pilots flying side by side studying the same problem. When was the last time that happened? Both aliens checked their tactical displays and saw the impossible. Their fighters were flying in mixed formations, too interested in the strange human tactics to remember they were supposed to be shooting at each other. This is temporary, Zergoth said, but her voice lacked conviction. Once we understand your methods, the war will resume. Will it? Dr. Brooks asked. Or will you find that understanding each other is more interesting than destroying each? Other? Turner made his final play. We have a proposal for both of you. Instead of fighting over Nexus 7, compete for it. Show us your best tactics, your most innovative strategies. Whoever impresses us the most gets our technical data on human flight patterns. A contest? Kethvar seemed intrigued despite himself. With rules, Turner added. No live weapons, no casualties. Pure skill and creativity. For the first time in 3,000 years, the commanders of the Eternal War found themselves considering something other than mutual annihilation. The endless war hadn't stopped, but it had paused to think. And in that pause, the impossible had become possible. Admiral Lisa Chen stood in the command center of Earth's Deep Space Defense Network, watching reports flood in from across human space. 6 months had passed since the incident at Nexus 7, and everything had changed. Ma'am, we've got confirmation, reported Captain Morrison, his face grim on the communication screen. Both alien empires have discovered the location of Earth. Scout fleets from both sides are already probing our outer colonies. Chen nodded grimly. She had expected this day would come. How long do we have? Intelligence estimates 3 months before the main fleets arrive. Maybe less if they decide to cooperate against us. Major Linda Foster stepped forward from her position at the tactical display. Admiral, the war games have given us valuable data. We know how they think, how they fight. But we're still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Chen studied the galactic map showing the positions of human colonies, most of them peaceful research stations and mining operations. None were heavily defended. Humanity had spread out, assuming they were alone in the galaxy. Status report on Operation Breakthrough, she ordered. General Roy Davis activated the holographic display. All 6 fleet groups are in position. We've spent the last 3 months studying every battle report from the Zephyrian-Korthak War. Their tactics, their weaknesses, their psychological patterns. And our conclusions? They're not prepared for what we're about to do, Davis replied with confidence. In 3,000 years, no one has ever attacked both sides simultaneously. They literally don't have protocols for it. Chen walked to the main viewer showing Earth's orbital shipyards. Hundreds of human vessels were docked there, from tiny scouts to massive battle cruisers. Each ship had been modified with new technologies developed from captured alien equipment and refugee assistance. President Stone has authorized full deployment, Chen announced. As of now, humanity is officially entering the Galactic War, not to choose a side but to end it. On the bridge of the battlecruiser New Horizon, Captain Morrison received his orders and felt the weight of history. His ship was leading the first attack group, targeting a major Zephyrian logistics hub in the Kepler sector. "Sir," called his tactical officer, "we're approaching the target system. Long-range sensors show exactly what intelligence predicted. Heavy defenses but arranged for attacks from Korthak directions only." Morrison smiled. The aliens were so focused on their ancient enemy that they couldn't imagine threats from anywhere else. "Begin the approach. Remember, we're not here to destroy everything. We want to capture their facilities intact." The New Horizon led a task force of 30 human ships into the system, using a tactic that would have been impossible for either alien empire. Instead of approaching as a single fleet, they split into dozens of small groups, each attacking from a completely different angle. "They're responding," reported the communications officer. "Zephyrian defenders are trying to form battle lines, but they can't figure out which group is the main attack." "That's because there is no main attack," Morrison replied. "Execute protocol surprise." The human ships suddenly changed tactics entirely. Some groups that had been attacking began to retreat. Others that had been retreating launched devastating strikes. A few groups stopped fighting altogether and started broadcasting surrender signals, only to reveal they were actually boarding parties when the confused Zephyrians tried to capture them. Within 6 hours, the logistics hub was in human hands, its alien defenders too confused by the constantly changing tactics to mount an effective resistance. Meanwhile, Colonel Hughes was leading a ground assault on a Korthak fortress world using an approach that broke every rule of warfare. Instead of trying to fight his way in, he surrendered. "Sir, the Korthaks are demanding our unconditional surrender," reported Sergeant Kim as their transport ships were tractored into the alien prison facilities. "Perfect," Hughes grinned. "Tell them we accept completely. We surrender totally and absolutely." The Korthak prison was designed to hold captured Zephyrian soldiers who followed strict codes of honor even in defeat. They never expected human prisoners who had no intention of staying captured. "Remember," Hughes told his soldiers as they were marched into the holding cells, "we're not breaking out, we're breaking in. Our target is the central command center, and now we're inside their perimeter." The Korthaks, used to prisoners who accepted their fate with dignity, were unprepared for captives who treated imprisonment as a tactical opportunity. Within hours, Hughes's soldiers had taken control of the prison from the inside and were using it as a base to capture the entire planet's defense network. Dr. Brooks, now serving as a strategic advisor, monitored the progress from Earth's command center. "Admiral, the psychological impact is enormous. Both alien empires are experiencing something they haven't felt in millennia, complete confusion about their enemy's intentions." "Explain," Chen ordered. "For 3,000 years, they've known exactly what to expect from each other. Zephyrians always use overwhelming firepower in direct assaults. Korthaks always use speed and numbers. Both sides have contingency plans for every possible variation of those tactics." Brooks activated a display showing alien communication intercepts. "But we're doing things that don't fit their understanding of warfare. Surrendering in order to attack, retreating as a form of advance, using chaos as a precision weapon." Major Foster nodded. "They're starting to doubt everything they know about military strategy. Some of their commanders are frozen with indecision because their tactical manuals don't cover what we're doing. The success of the human offensive was beyond all projections. Within 2 weeks, human forces had captured key installations from both empires without causing significant casualties. More importantly, they had shattered the psychological foundation of the eternal war. "Admiral," Morrison reported from the captured Zephyrian base, "we're intercepting communications between enemy fleets. They're not coordinating attacks on us. They're comparing notes, trying to understand our methods." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Comparing notes? You mean they're cooperating?" "In a limited way, yes. They're sharing intelligence about human tactics. It's the first time in recorded history that Zephyrians and Korthaks have voluntarily exchanged military information." General Davis looked up from his strategic display. "Ma'am, we need to accelerate the timeline. Intelligence suggests both empires are planning a joint strike on Earth." "Joint strike?" "A combined fleet. Zephyrians and Korthax working together for the first time in 3 millennia. They see humanity as an existential threat to their way of life. Chen felt the irony of the situation. By refusing to choose sides, humanity had united their enemies against them. When? 2 weeks, maybe less. Every available ship from both empires converging on Earth. Foster studied the numbers. We're talking about tens of thousands of ships, Admiral. The largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Chen looked out at Earth, peaceful and blue in the darkness of space. Her home world, about to face the combined might of 2 civilizations that had been perfecting warfare for longer than humans had existed. You know what? She said finally. Good. Her staff looked at her in surprise. Don't you see? Chen continued. They're giving us exactly what we need. For the first time in 3,000 years, both empires will be in the same place, working toward the same goal. That's not a problem. That's an opportunity. Admiral? Davis asked. Chen smiled grimly. We're going to turn their joint attack into a joint lesson. They want to see what humanity is really capable of? Let's show them what happens when you threaten our home. She turned to her staff. Recall all our scattered forces, every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. If they want to end this war at Earth, then that's where we'll end it. And if we lose? Foster asked quietly. Then we'll lose doing something that's never been tried before. Chen replied. We'll lose making sure that both sides learn something they've never known. What it looks like when someone fights not to win, but to teach. The endless war was coming to Earth, but humanity was ready to give it the lesson of a lifetime. The combined alien fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 50,000 ships from both the Zephyrian Empire and Korthak Federation hung in space around Earth's solar system, their weapons powered and shields raised. For the first time in 3 millennia, the eternal enemies worked together with a single purpose: destroy humanity. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Liberation, humanity's new flagship, watching the tactical display. Earth's entire defense fleet numbered barely 300 ships, but she showed no sign of fear. Ma'am, reported Captain Turner, now serving as her tactical coordinator. Both alien commanders are demanding our immediate surrender. They're offering to spare Earth's population if we give up now. And their terms? Complete dismantling of all human military forces, relocation of our colonies to designated reservation worlds, and permanent non-interference in galactic affairs. Chen laughed. They want to turn us into pets. What's our response time? 1 hour until they begin bombardment, Turner replied. Dr. Brooks looked up from her science station. Lisa, I've been analyzing their fleet composition. This alliance is fragile. They're working together out of fear, not trust. The Zephyrians still don't trust Korthak tactics, and the Korthaks think Zephyrian methods are too slow. Can we exploit that? Maybe. But first, we need to survive their opening attack. General Davis activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Davis. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth today. We're fighting to teach the galaxy that war doesn't have to be eternal. The human fleet moved into defensive positions around Earth, but not in any pattern the aliens recognized. Instead of forming battle lines or defensive spheres, the ships scattered randomly throughout the solar system. Admiral, called Major Foster from the Mars orbital station, the aliens are confused by our deployment. They can't figure out what we're trying to protect or how we plan to fight. That's the idea, Chen replied. Morrison, begin Phase 1. Captain Morrison, commanding a task force near Jupiter, activated humanity's first surprise. The gas giant suddenly lit up with artificial aurora as thousands of previously hidden human ships decloaked from the planet's magnetic field. What the hell? Came the voice of Admiral Kethvar over the communication channel. Intelligence reported. Only 300 human vessels. Intelligence was wrong, Chen replied calmly. You counted our main fleet. You forgot to count our miners, our transports, our research ships, and our pleasure craft. The alien fleet found itself facing not hundreds but thousands of human vessels, each one armed and ready for battle. But more importantly, they were all moving in the same chaotic patterns that had confused alien commanders for months. Fleet Master Zergoth's voice crackled with frustration. Impossible! Civilian ships cannot be militarized so quickly. Civilian ships, Dr. Brooks broadcast to both fleets, are built by people who expect them to work in dangerous environments, deep space mining, asteroid harvesting, comet research. We don't have separate military and civilian technologies. Every human ship is designed to survive. The battle began with the alien fleet's coordinated assault on Earth, but their carefully planned attack immediately fell apart. The human ships weren't where they were supposed to be, and their response made no tactical sense. Some human vessels charged directly at the massive alien ships. Others retreated at maximum speed. A few groups seemed to be running away from the battle entirely, while several task forces appeared to be fighting each other. "What are they doing?" Admiral Kethvar demanded of his tactical officers. "Unknown, sir. Their movements show no coherent strategy. It's like watching thousands of individual duels instead of a fleet engagement." But Colonel Hughes, commanding ground defenses on Earth, was watching something else entirely. "Admiral Chen, look at the alien formation. They're trying to maintain coordination while responding to pure chaos. It's tearing their alliance apart." He was right. The Zephyrian ships kept forming battle lines and waiting for the Korthak swarms to support them. But the Korthaks were already engaging scattered human groups and couldn't break off to coordinate. Meanwhile, the Korthak fleetmaster was frustrated that the slow Zephyrian heavy cruisers couldn't keep up with the rapid tactical changes. "Phase 2, Chen ordered. Suddenly, the chaotic human fleet behavior revealed its true purpose. What had looked like random fighting was actually a carefully orchestrated plan to separate the alien forces. Zephyrian ships found themselves isolated from their Korthak allies, facing human task forces that knew exactly how to exploit their weaknesses. "Admiral," called Commander Walsh from his battlecruiser, "the aliens are arguing with each other on open channels. The Zephyrians are blaming the Korthaks for not supporting their formations. The Korthaks are accusing the Zephyrians of being too slow to adapt." Chen nodded. "Execute demonstration protocol." What happened next would be remembered as the most audacious move in military history. The human fleet stopped fighting and instead began capturing ships from both alien forces, but in a very specific way. "We're taking one Zephyrian and one Korthak ship for every human vessel we lose," Chen announced to both enemy commanders. "But we're not destroying them. We're pairing them up." Within hours, the space around Earth was filled with an impossible sight: captured Zephyrian and Korthak ships flying in mixed formations, their crews working together under human supervision. "This is madness," Admiral Kethvar protested. "You cannot force natural enemies to cooperate." "Watch us," Chen replied. Captain Turner reported from one of the mixed squadrons. "Admiral, the alien crews are actually working well together. When they're not focused on killing each other, they're remarkably compatible. Zephyrian engineering expertise combined with Korthak tactical flexibility." Dr. Brooks was monitoring the psychological effects of the demonstration. "Lisa, this is breaking their minds. Some of the alien crews are starting to question why they've been fighting for so long. The turning point came when a damaged human ship found itself under attack from both Zephyrian and Korthak forces. The crew of a captured alien vessel, with mixed crews from both empires, made a decision that shocked everyone. They moved to protect the human ship." "Why?" Fleet Master Zergoth demanded of her former subordinate. The response, broadcast on all channels, changed everything. "Because they showed us that we could work together instead of dying separately." Admiral Chen saw her moment. "Commanders of both fleets, I want to show you something." The main display activated, showing Earth in all its blue and green beauty. Then the image expanded to show the solar system, with its mix of human colonies, research stations, and now the largest fleet ever assembled. "This is what we're fighting for," Chen said. "Not territory, not resources, not pride. Life. The chance for different species to exist together instead of destroying each other." She gestured to the mixed alien-human squadron still fighting around Jupiter. "Look at your people out there. Zephyrians and Korthaks working as teams, protecting human ships that are protecting them in return. When was the last time you saw your crew smile?" There was silence from both alien commanders. The war ends here, Chen continued. Not because one side won, but because all sides realized they could do something better with their time. Admiral Kethvar's voice was quiet when he finally spoke. And if we refuse, if we continue the attack, then you'll destroy Earth, kill millions of humans, and go back to killing each other for another 3,000 years, Chen replied. But you'll do it knowing that you had a chance to see something different, and you chose death over life. Fleetmaster. Zurgoth was the first to power down her weapons. I have seen enough death for 1,000 lifetimes. One by one, the ships of the massive alien fleet began standing down. The endless war had finally met something it couldn't defeat, the possibility of hope. But Chen knew the real test was still to come. Stopping a battle was one thing. Ending a war that had lasted 3 millennia would require something even more difficult. Teaching 2 civilizations how to live without conflict. The hardest battle was just beginning. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, Captain Morrison stood on the observation deck of the exploration ship Unity, watching something that would have been impossible just months before. Zephyrian and Korthak engineers worked side by side building the first joint research station in the history of the galaxy. It's remarkable, said Dr. Brooks, joining him at the viewport. A year ago, those 2 species couldn't be in the same star system without trying to kill each other. Now look at them. The construction site buzzed with activity as beings from both former enemy empires collaborated on projects that had nothing to do with warfare. Zephyrian heavy lift capability combined with Korthak precision engineering was creating structures more advanced than either species had ever built alone. Captain Morrison, called Lieutenant Kim from the communication station, we're getting a transmission from Admiral Chen on Earth. The main screen activated to show Chen in her new role as head of the Galactic Peacekeeping Corps. Behind her, the skyline of New Geneva showed buildings designed by architects from dozens of worlds, a symbol of the new cooperation spreading across the galaxy. Jake, how's the joint exploration mission going? Morrison smiled. Better than anyone expected, Admiral. We've surveyed 15 systems in the past month, found 3 potentially habitable worlds and 2 significant archaeological sites, and no one has shot at each other even once. That's because they're too busy competing over who can make the most discoveries, added Commander Walsh, who was serving as the mission's diplomatic liaison. Chen nodded approvingly. Speaking of competition, I have news. The Council has approved the next phase of reconstruction. Instead of converting warships to peaceful purposes, we're starting to build ships designed for exploration and construction from the ground up. This was the key to ending the eternal war. Rather than simply asking 2 military civilizations to stop fighting, humanity had given them something more engaging than warfare. The challenge of creating instead of destroying. Engineer Parker, now leading integrated technology teams, had discovered that Zephyrian and Korthak technologies were remarkably compatible when they weren't being used to kill each other. Zephyrian power systems could drive Korthak manufacturing equipment to create things neither species had imagined possible. The psychological breakthrough came when they realized they had been wasting their talents, Dr. Brooks had explained to the Council. Both species are naturally innovative and competitive. The war had channeled those traits into destruction. We just redirected them toward construction. The transition hadn't been easy. General Davis, now heading the Rehabilitation Corps, had spent months dealing with former soldiers who didn't know how to live without conflict. Some had tried to restart fighting, others had fallen into depression. But slowly, programs that challenged their skills in peaceful competitions had begun to work. Captain, reported Colonel Hughes from the surface of the research station, the archaeological team has made another discovery. The ruins we found last week? They're not from an unknown civilization. They're from before the war started. Morrison felt a chill. Before the war? You mean Zephyrian or Korthak? Both. Sir, these ruins show evidence of joint construction. Zephyrian and Korthak architecture integrated into a single design. They were working together 3,000 years ago before the fighting started. Dr. Brooks leaned forward. Are you saying the 2 species used to be allies? More than allies, Hughes replied. The inscriptions we've translated suggest they were partners in a galactic exploration program. They were mapping the galaxy together, building research stations like this one. The implications were staggering. The eternal war hadn't been between natural enemies, but between former friends who had forgotten why they had started fighting in the first place. "Have you told the alien crews about this?" Morrison asked. "That's the incredible part, sir. They figured it out themselves." When the Zephyrian and Korthak archaeologists saw the evidence, they started remembering old stories, ancient myths about the time before the war. Stories they had dismissed as fantasies. On the main screen, Admiral Chen was receiving similar reports from across the galaxy. Former battlefields were being excavated to reveal traces of the cooperation that had existed before the conflict began. "It explains everything," Chen said. "Why their technologies are so compatible, why they understand each other's tactics so well, why the war lasted so long without either side achieving victory. They weren't trying to destroy an enemy. They were trying to defeat themselves." The discovery triggered what historians would later call the Great Remembering. Across both former empires, beings began to recall suppressed histories, forgotten traditions, and lost connections between the two species. Vexhai and Trelnok, the former refugees from Nexus 7, had become leaders in the reconciliation process. Their space station had evolved from a neutral zone into the galaxy's first university, where beings from all species came to study cooperation instead of conflict. The hardest part, Vexhai explained to visiting human students, was learning to forgive ourselves. We had spent so long believing that war was our nature that we forgot we had ever been anything else. Captain Turner, now commanding the diplomatic vessel New Dawn, was leading humanity's most ambitious project, establishing trade and cultural exchange networks between former enemy worlds. What had once been supply lines for military equipment were becoming routes for sharing art, science, and ideas. "The transformation is accelerating," Turner reported to Chen. "Former military academies are becoming research universities. Weapons factories are producing exploration equipment. Even the language is changing. Military terms are being replaced with words focused on building and discovering." The final test came when the first children born after the war's end reached school age. These young beings had never known conflict. Between their species and their natural friendships were becoming the foundation of permanent peace. Morrison watched from the observation deck as one such group played in the station's recreational area. Zephyrian children with their metallic skin gleaming under artificial starlight chased Korthak youngsters whose multiple limbs made them incredibly agile climbers. Human children joined the games, their laughter mixing with sounds of joy from across the galaxy. "You know what the most remarkable thing is?" Dr. Brooks said, standing beside him. "What's that?" "They're not playing war games, they're playing construction games, building imaginary cities, designing impossible ships, creating art projects, together. The instinct for violence has been replaced by an instinct for creation." Morrison nodded, remembering his first encounter with the alien fleets years ago. The rigid formations, the predictable tactics, the endless repetition of meaningless battles. All of that was gone now, replaced by something far more complex and beautiful. Cooperation. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kim, "we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. They're ready to announce the formation of the Joint Exploration Initiative." The message was broadcast simultaneously to every world in the galaxy. Admiral Chen, flanked by former Admiral Kethvar and former Fleetmaster Zergoth, announced that the three species would combine their fleets into a single organization dedicated to exploring beyond their galaxy. "The endless war is over," Chen declared. "Not because one side won, but because all sides chose to build something greater than any of us could achieve alone." Morrison smiled as he watched the ceremony. Humanity had entered the Galactic War not to win it, but to end it. They had succeeded by doing something that neither alien empire had thought possible. They had changed the rules of the game entirely. In the years that followed, the galaxy would face new challenges. There would be discoveries that tested their cooperation, crises that strained their alliances, and mysteries that required all their combined wisdom to solve. But there would be no more endless wars. The last ship built for destruction had been converted into a tool for exploration. The final weapons had been turned into instruments for building. The endless war had indeed found its end, not in victory or defeat, but in the simple recognition that there were better ways to spend eternity than fighting. As the Unity prepared to jump to hyperspace for its next mission, Morrison took one last look at the research station. Tomorrow it would welcome its first class of students from a dozen different species, all eager to learn how to build wonders instead of weapons. The endless war was over. The endless peace had just begun.